We're talking about buyer behavior today, and I wanted to share this with you because what I'm getting a lot, what I'm hearing through so much of our coaching sessions is, I want to think about it. And what are they thinking about? Obviously, the tariffs. Certainly, this is top of mind for so many of our buyers right now. The good news is, as we've heard yesterday, the American government, the United States government, has decided to pause tariffs for another 90 days or so. So that is good news. And I would imagine Canada will respond in kind as well. And this is fantastic for our buyers. Maybe not such great news for us, because as salespeople, we want to capitalize on those hooks. And for a lot of us, the threat of tariffs coming into play and automobiles going up and becoming expensive very quickly, like as in overnight, doesn't necessarily create as much of a hook as it was before. And I want to caution you on that tariff hook. And the reason being is that once, yes, say for instance, the tariffs do come in and it is a real threat for us, and just because there is a 90-day pause doesn't necessarily mean it will absolutely go to the end of 90 days. We've got an election for Canada to get through first, and then we'll find out what that next leader and relationship will be with the Trump administration. But bottom line is, regardless of what our politicians do, regardless of what company leadership is, the problem with a hook like the tariff threat is that it tugs on all the motivational senses for customers, the desire to save money, obviously the fear that they don't know how much they're going to go up in terms of price, and second of all, the pain that why, because I just need to buy an automobile right now, should I have to bear the brunt and carry the weight of the fact that the government decides that in order for us to protect our economies, they need to impose this additional invisible expense, which carries no value at all. And this is nothing about a political discussion. I'm not opening that door. I'm not suggesting for a second. I understand what governments need to do in order to run, and I'm not a politician myself. I didn't study political science, and I'm not taking a viewpoint either way on the topic. It's just when we leverage something like the tariff tax, or whatever you want to call it, it is a tariff and it is a tax, but when that becomes our one and only hook to reel customers in, you see, unlike the inventory shortage during the pandemic, when our supply chain was so fragmented, it was a matter of supply and demand. It wasn't something that we created and we wanted to do. Not the tariffs are something that we created and we want or don't want to do. But in order for a client, in order for your customer to get what they want, which is purchase an automobile, they had to get in right now because you just didn't have any and you weren't going to get any more. And if no one knew when the supply chain would correct itself and we would get that flow of semiconductors that we needed so badly because the chips were not completed, and therefore the many features on the vehicle, and in some cases the vehicle wouldn't run at all. We just didn't know when that would be fixed. The other side of the equation that we're dealing with right now with tariffs, and the reason why this isn't a fantastic hook like supply and demand was a terrific hook during the inventory shortage, is that when the tariff comes on, it may be on for a very long period of time. If we never do actually get the tariffs at all, it compromises your integrity. And that kind of a hook is short-lived, it's superficial, it may leave the customer feeling like, well, you told me I had to get in and rush in really quickly to get it, and now it's not going to happen, or it didn't happen, or the manufacturer lowered their price in order to accommodate it. It compromises your know, like, and trust badge of honor. So that works with all buying behavior. And the buying behavior, as we've talked about before, is broken out into 4 quadrants. This is not Foursquare or any sales tactic along those lines. It's just simply that no two customers are the same. And we always want to recognize that they aren't. The first customer is generally very price driven. Not to say that every shopper is not concerned with how much the vehicle costs, but the very first buying behavior that you're going to get is clearly and easily identified as most concerned with price. And this is clearly stated in the six-figure manifesto, our system of 3 phases and 9 steps. The very first step that we talk about, which sets up the closing apparition and mastering negotiation and presentation skills so that you can prospect, harvest your customers in, because this very first step identifies how to handle these price shoppers. The price shopper is concerned with what? There's 3 things that motivate them. Pain. They're really concerned at the fact that in order to make this vehicle affordable, they're going to have to take it over a long term and a long time. Not to say that these motivations aren't consistent with all others, but it's just really evident and obvious with this first buyer behavior. The second thing is a fear. And the fear that they're worried about is, can they get a better deal down the road? If I wait and I don't purchase right now, and I see what the next 90 days will offer, there will be a hint that the pause is not going to pause ever again, and we're going ahead with tariffs, or the pause is now permanent, and we are not going to implement tariffs, and therefore the manufacturers will just continue to manufacture and sell accordingly through our retail channel. Or if the tariff is really going to come in, there will probably be some warning signs that on that particular day, just like yesterday was the deciding factor, Wednesday, April 9th, the tariffs would go in, the pause period was up, and of course it got paused again. These individuals are very concerned that what we're saying, and this is the reason why utilizing tariffs as your hook when your story can't support the idea whether they're going to happen or they're not, and therefore your offer is buy right now, regardless of what the interest rate is, regardless of what employee pricing offers, regardless of the availability that I've got, regardless of the payment that you're taking on, get it right now. They're fearful that what you're saying isn't in fact truthful. And that's what compromises your know, like, and trust badge of honor. Remember, trust is only ever earned. It's never requested. So you can't say, trust me, the tariffs are going to happen, or trust me, the tariffs are never going to happen. You and I do not make that decision. Correct me if I'm wrong. You may know a lot about this. You may be an expert in political science. You may be very well connected to some of the decision makers that make these policies. But at the end of the day, we've seen governments around the world, worldwide, not just here in the United States, make some pretty rash decisions based on their trade policies, which we pretty much assumed were stable and didn't need to be modified. The third thing that this price-driven shopper is most concerned about is desire. Is this, even though I would like to have your product, is now the very best time for me to be considering doing so? Even if the desire is the highest of all the motivators, and now and today and this week and month and quarter of the year, and in this particular segment of the decade is the right time for me to purchase, maybe because of the fact that you're touting a hook that may or may not exist, can cloud and actually exhaust the desire to, in fact, want to go with your product. So be really careful with how the hook that you pick with price-driven shoppers plays out, because if the price goes down when you said this is the best it's ever going to get, then you've compromised your integrity, and there's no repeat and referral business. And that's how you will not sell 10, 20, and 30 vehicles per month with predictable consistency, because you need them coming back on a regular basis. The next buying behavior is the one that is really unsure about their decision. And so what are they thinking about that would slow them down? Well, they're thinking about the affordability, right? They're thinking, is it affordable based on their budget? And again, this is the reason why a tariff hook does not work with most, if not all, buying behavior. Because what this particular buyer is going to come in sharing with you, and they're going to be very convincing of it as well. They're excellent talkers. They've orchestrated this plan in their own mind. They exist over here on this side of the graph as a friendly shopper, so you're going to enjoy talking to them and working with them. They're going to convince you to make the automobile fit their budget per week, right? Or bi-weekly. I should say bi-weekly. Seeing a lot of ads per week now. So when you fit the automobile into their budget, you exhaust your commission. You give your commission up, you let someone else eat your lunch. For what reason? And more importantly than that, it's great having a sticker on the board. I get it. The reason why I lick my thumb and stick it on the board because the stickers on our board are still the old lick them and stick it on like a stamp on an envelope, an old stamp. We've got the new stamps that are already pre-glued. When you get a sticker on the board at the sacrifice of commission because you put the customer into too much vehicle and therefore had to discount it, do they really drive away really happy? Do they drive away with an enormous amount of desire for your product and for you? And I don't think that is the truth, because you can look at your customer satisfaction, your customer experience scores, and juxtapose, compare, in other words, the commission that you made on every single deal with the customer satisfaction or the customer experience score that you received for that commission. And what you're going to find every single time is that the highest customer experience, customer satisfaction score correlates with the highest gross profit and consequently your best commission. And that's not because the people that pay the most are just the happiest. That's the superficial explanation for it. That's what poor, average, ordinary automobile sales trainers promote and advocate and just babble on at great length about. The reason why that customer is prepared to pay what you are selling the vehicle for, which you did not price, the manufacturer price, and they took a painstaking, laborious process of identifying who is their ideal candidate for that automobile and determine this is how much money they make, and therefore the sweet spot for their monthly payment will be this much. That's how we arrive at the price of an automobile, you know. Long before the automobile ever hits the clay mold stage, the sales department is very involved with it in order to share with the engineering department what they need to do in order to be able to assemble the vehicle so that we can retail it for these kind of dollars. When you put the client in that perfect automobile based on their budget, they are enamored with the automobile. And when they're enamored with the automobile, they go out and tell their friends, family, relatives, their co-workers, and their neighbors how fantastic and how impressed they are with their product, and consequently, you. Because if they don't mention your name at all, someone is definitely, invariably going to say, who did you get it from? Where did you get it from? Well, who taught you so much about this automobile? Why are you so fired up and excited about it? This is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th one you've had, and I've never seen you so excited about it. And consequently, your name will probably come up. And this is the value bridge that we create from the old to the new, and this is how you sell without negotiating, by understanding the buyer behavior, not fitting the automobile into their budget, fitting their budget onto an automobile. Now, you may go through a very laborious process of showing the wrong vehicle and demonstrating them in it, and when it gets back to the desk portion of the purchase consultation and closing the sale, and they say it's too much money, which should be a surprise to you. That should be a huge surprise when they say it's too much money after they've seen it and driven it. Because going back to the activities that lead to the sale, your second activity should be a conscientious counsel and qualifying session whereby you interview them on what is their budget, and that's determined by the vehicle they're currently driving and the payment that they have on it. And if they paid their vehicle off, as I'm seeing so many trade-ins come onto our lot now in the 12 to 16-year-old range. These are not worth keeping anymore. They're not even as is-able, as my sales team calls it. I'm like, no, Bill, they are not even worth putting on the as-is. There's holes in the floor. There's holes in the body because where we live, there's a lot of salt poured down on the roadway. These are the individuals that saw during the pandemic and the inventory shortage and the sudden rise of inflation and vehicles going up 20% year over year. That was the 21-22 phase. They were not going to purchase, and they're just going to have to make their vehicle work and continue on. These are the individuals that are now coming in and faced with that payment of 2, 3, and 4 times what they were accustomed to paying before. Not to mention, right now, they don't have a payment on their automobile at all. So when you're trying to fit the automobile into their budget, and their budget is currently 0, no payments, no interest, forever because they paid it off, you've got a daunting task ahead of yourself. I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody that ever gets a vehicle, no interest, no money down, no payments forever, unless of course they won it in a competition, which is a completely different scenario. We don't have a no payments, no interest, no money down forever scenario. When we retail an automobile to somebody, somebody's got to pay for it. We paid for it coming from the manufacturer, or buying it off the curb, or buying it at the auction house to be able to resell it as a pre-owned. Our purpose in business is to make money and sell it out to somebody else. Anyhow, what you want to recognize is with these individuals that aren't really sure of what they want, you need to narrow down. You need to really funnel down their decision-making process in order to hit all the hot buttons, which makes it easy for them to drip out the bottom of your sales funnel as a deal. All right, the very same thing happens over here with your sales funnel with the payment-driven price shopper. You need to narrow down in very short order, quickly, focus on price, who doesn't want to see and drive the automobile, to get them to drip out the bottom as a sale. Remember, every shopper is a buyer. They're either purchasing your automobile or they're purchasing the one that they're currently driving. And if they have no payments on the one that they're currently driving, they still have a payment on it. You know what the payment is, right? The payment is the depreciation factor. And it's not a factor, because even though we would like to assign a percentage to it, it's not like a lease return. It's not like a residual value. The payment is the depreciation, the actual hard cash dollars coming out of their pocket. If you appraise their vehicle today and they decide not to purchase until August, 5, 6, 7 months from now, you'll have to reappraise that vehicle, and I can pretty much assure you, I can almost guarantee the fact that it will not be worth the same amount of money at that period of the year, the end of Q3, or the end of the end of Q3, right? September, going into Q4, when the new model announcement has come along and we've got all those new product out, the price is going to go down. Well, you know it as well as I do. The customer knows it as well as you and I know it. So, the next buyer behavior that you want to be concerned with is the person that listens more than they talk. This individual, we can misinterpret their politeness for being interested in what we have to say. Now, the reason why this individual is important is because they can look they can actually say things that are most agreeable to us. So they may say that, yes, they understand the price of automobiles has gone up because of inflation. That is just a fact of life, and their payment is going to be higher, and that's just a fact of life. And the automobile is lovely, and there has been a lot of changes going from the old to the new, justifying the price increase, and that having a warranty on the new over their used is an advantage. They would agree that they are driving around an unprotected payment. And while you think you're dealing with a perfectly scripted, designed, ideal customer, all of a sudden they drop the bomb on you. I need to talk it over with my spouse. Or we have no intention of buying today. Or, let me sleep on it. Or, I never make it a decision on the first day going out. So if you're around on the weekend, like Saturday, or you working Saturday, we will come in. I'll come in with my spouse, my brother, my uncle, my aunt, my neighbor, my cousin. And I just want them to see it to make sure that I'm making the right decision. You missed the hot button. Now, was the hot button the price? Well, they said they were in agreement with the fact that inflation has driven up the price of automobiles, and therefore it's going to be more expensive than what their old one was. Yeah, but did you get a yes that is okay? Because without a yes, you have nothing. And this is the mistake that average ordinary automobile salespeople make, is that they hear the listener agree with you that inflation has driven the price of vehicles up, and therefore that is the reason why their monthly payment is doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. But you never got the affirmation, the confirmation, the commitment that that is affordable to me. Second of all, the product. If the price is not agreeable, not affordable, then we have less expensive offerings. So this is the reason why they need to go home and think about it, because the price is not affordable. The price is not agreeable. And this is the reason why you don't sell 10, 20, 30 vehicles per month with predictable consistency, because we're not getting commitment on being on the right vehicle, albeit your second activity of the interview is to alert them to the fact that this is what the new one will be and has on it. Find out what the trade is. If you find out the trade does not have a payment on it, find out what the old payment was. If the old payment is half of what the new payment will be, or a quarter of what the new payment will be, you got to ask them, how did you get that payment so low? Or you got to ask them, the new payment will not be anywhere close to that. Are you okay with that? Because we can make the new payment match the old payment, but they're going to have to put down a lot of money. Or maybe they're going to have to lease it as opposed to finance it. And they may have to lease it and put money down, at which point they realize that they're not going to own it. There is still an advantage to them to do so. However, if you don't ask and you don't get the commitment, you can't go to the sales desk and say, yep, this is absolutely the one that they want. They're just going to go home and sleep on it, and then they're going to come back tomorrow and they're going to finalize it. Don't buy it. Don't believe them. This is the easiest possible way for them to get away from you. The next thing is that they don't know if you are the salesperson they should deal with, based on the reputation of the manufacturer, reputation of the dealership, or even reputation of you. Google your name on a regular basis. Make sure that there isn't a review on you that is the only one or two or three, and they aren't very good. Google your dealership's name and have a look at it. And even though you can't change those Google responses, and when it is time for you to have a number of Google reviews, it's probably too late to build up a whole bunch of better ones. And anybody is going to see that with a bad Google review. Now there's 5 good ones that come in consecutively, very timely afterwards. Someone's going to say, they called a bunch of friends, or they called family members and told them to review it. The bottom line is, with respect to reputation, you can share with them maybe the problem that we've had with this product in the past, maybe a problem that we're currently fixing. For instance, and it is common knowledge, I'm not letting any secrets out of the bag here, there are some engine troubles with Hyundai and Kia product, and that's not exclusive to Hyundai and Kia. There's been engine problems with Ford and Chrysler and General Motors and Lamborghini and Ferrari and Porsche as well, and Subaru. Everybody has experienced it. Some greater problems. General Motors' worst transmission they ever built was in the late 80s for the new front-wheel drive H cars, and consequently the best transmission that they ever produced was the sequel to that worst transmission that they made. So sometimes these poor situations create opportunities for the buyer to have something better. And it's great for you to share with them through product differentiation. You may, if you don't make sure that the reputation is absolutely perfect and they're going to love it, then again, that may be some of the reasons why they're going to think about it. How about location? If they're calling in or emailing in, it may be because you have the only one. Therefore, there's no need to discount it whatsoever. And you just simply have to ask them either where are you calling from, or, we're a long way away from where you're calling from and inquiring from. Is that any concern? Are you looking for us to deliver the vehicle to you, or will you be driving, busing, flying in? It could be a fly-in situation at a dealer in Texas. They would say, yeah, a lot of Canadians purchase automobiles down here in Texas, and we had a really smooth, easy process where you'd land at the Dallas airport. We had a hotel, not that they paid for it, that they suggested that people stay at, then come into the dealership, finalize the paperwork. We'd put temporary plates on it, and they'd start the 4-day drive all the way back to Canada, wherever that was, either to the East Coast or Central or East or Western Canada. So make sure your location is acceptable for this particular buyer behavior. And of course, it's important to all the buyer behaviors, but this is the one that listens twice as much as they talk. It's really difficult for you to put your finger on the hot button of, yes, this is the reason why they will buy or not. And then finally, at the very end of the thing, is you. And that lends itself well to the objection handling formula, where we talk about the dealership, the location, the product itself, and of course, if all of those things are right, then I feel a little awkward asking this, but how about me? Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to deal with me? Look, there's a lot of men, you know this very well, and if you're a female selling automobiles, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of men that walk into an automobile dealership, and I'm including Powersport in that too, and say, can I talk to a salesman? My daughter is one of the top salespeople in Powersport for Polaris Industries, and she gets it on a regular basis. And these guys come around afterwards and they figure out, and someone says, she's the best one here. She knows the most about the product. She's most versed on, and she has no reservation or hesitation, as I told her in the very beginning. Just pass those guys off. They want to talk to a salesman. They don't think that you're a saleswoman that can accomplish what they're looking for. Pass them off to somebody else who will not give them the same treatment that you can give them. And a lot of those guys go over to her and apologize afterwards, or they find out from their buddies that that individual didn't purchase from Rebecca, and they apologize to her and they want to deal with her again. And then of course a lot of them leave the dealership, talk to a friend and say, I didn't have the experience that I was really looking for. And they said, well, that's unusual. Like, I purchased from Rebecca and she's absolutely amazing and terrific. And like, oh, I wasn't dealing with Rebecca, I was dealing with the other guy. It's like, oh, well, then you want to talk to Rebecca, and they call back and they get Rebecca and they go, I don't know how you're going to stick handle this, but I don't want to deal with the other guy, I want to deal with you. And consequently, it can be you. This is the reason why they want to think about it. And these are the buyer behaviors. These are the same conditions. Everybody's driven by these motivations. Every single customer wants you to fit the highest, most luxurious automobile into the lowest possible budget. Yeah, they all want to do it. They're all driven by these factors. But these are the predominant elements of the reason why they buy, and consequently, the reason why they do not buy. And I really hope you find this helpful. I know I'm going through this material extremely quickly. In our manifesto, the first step, we go through this in a much slower pace, because these individuals over here on this side of the equation, if these guys are happy, then guess what these guys are? Whoop, whoop. There's another line in there. These ones here are unhappy. And not that they walk in with a big grumpy face on, but this individual that just wants best price, doesn't have need to see it, drive it, or look at it, really wants you to get to brass tacks right away. What's your lowest possible price? And that leads us to our last one, the enthusiast. And the enthusiast is conscientious. And the reason that I say conscientious is because they are detailed. And they are detailed based on their acumen, which means experience, knowledge, awareness, skill of purchasing an automobile. And they're comparing themselves to you. In fact, they're judging you based on their level of understanding of the automobile and how to purchase an automobile and how to negotiate and how to get a great deal. And if you aren't a skilled salesperson and you struggle with selling to some customers, you feel belittled, you feel put down, you feel overwhelmed, you feel manipulated, it's because this particular individual doesn't believe that you are a skilled automobile salesperson because of how you answer questions. And all of that is driven by the cadence or the pace at which we react to customers. If either one of these two individuals walk into your dealership and you do not look after them in a timely fashion and they wander around the lot, maybe for 5 seconds or for 5 minutes, and they are not looked after by anybody, they'll ridicule and chastise you for it. Oh, yeah. What am I, invisible? What, nobody knows I'm here? Holy smokes. Maybe I should get a job here selling cars. I could do really well just by looking after customers that are out on the lot. Have you ever heard that before? You ever heard that? Anybody ever said that to you? Maybe you've been with somebody that has felt that way. You know what? Doesn't anybody want to sell anything around here? Nobody's looking after me. On the other side of the equation, these individuals operating at a slower pace, and you're a fast-paced salesperson, talk fast, move fast. You run out as soon as they come on the lot because somebody criticized you for not getting out to them within 5 minutes, and they're like, "Why are you pouncing on me? What is this a bad month? You know, can't I just walk around? You know," and they say, "I just came in to look. I just don't waste your time on me. You know, like I'm not buying. We're not in the market. I just happen to be passing by. We're killing some time." Happens all the time, doesn't it? Every shopper is a buyer. They're either buying your new vehicle right here, or they're buying their old one that they drove in, whether there's payments on it or not. The payment that they have on it, if they don't have a monthly payment on it, they paid it off, is depreciation. We talked about that. The new payment, double, tripled, and quadrupled, you make that easy by understanding the motivation of the individual buyer behavior and getting commitment all the way along.